Hey everybody, welcome to Ref Time, powered by RTS and produced by Coraggio Media. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Crane. We'll be covering rules, plays, points of emphasis, and all things official. It's the great Deric Adams.
Welcome to the show, Deric.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
We've been looking forward to having you on because, let's keep it real, you've been one of our favorite coaches over the years.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Your style is one, you're so, what is the word? Intense.
Intense.
You're very intense.
I've heard that before.
Well,
it can be good and it can be, it can be good.
You've always been intense, but
yes.
I know you've always been intense for the love of the game and also for your players.
Yep, the betterment of your
to
players.
Get better. And the reason I can judge you like that is because our daughter, I've been in education a long time prior to becoming a full-time official, and I can tell you that I judge people according to the way the kids respond. And our daughter loves you, so.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing.
Yep. She wanted you to be her coach, actually.
Yes, yeah. I think, when she was a freshman, there was a spot open, and we were really hoping that you would take it, but.
She's like, I hope Coach Adams gets it. It's like, okay, well, does he even do girls? She goes, I don't care. Have you ever coached girls?
I have. Strangely enough, the very first coaching job I had at 24 years of age was 7th grade girls basketball team.
Okay.
And it was quite a lesson. It was quite a lesson. And I think it taught me more about people and more about kids at that age and their struggles at that age than it did anything about basketball. And the strangest thing is 30-some years later, almost 30 years later, two of the girls that I coached attend the same church I attend. And it just so happened that one day they walked up to me after a service and said, "Hey, Coach Adams, how are you?" And
of course you didn't remember them.
I didn't recognize anybody until they told me their names, and then I knew immediately who they were. And it was nice because they spoke about the impact that I had on them. And that's one of the things I think that coaches can never fully understand is the impact that they have.
Right.
And you talk about Sydney and that relationship, and all of my players, former, current, whatever they might be, all have a special place in my heart.
Did you know Sydney felt that way about you?
I didn't. I know we clicked.
Yeah.
I knew we clicked when we did some individual workouts
Yeah.
and everything. She was very responsive to it and understood and was very willing to hear what I had to say and accepting of both the positive and the negative side of it. The criticism, like, hey, we can be better at this, or we can, we're doing this well.
I think Sydney has always responded to male coaches and mentors more other than you, more positive than she has to females. I don't know why that is.
I think it depends, because there was a female coach that she had as a 7th grader, I think.
Was that the young lady who moved on to Indy?
Lane.
Lane, yeah.
Yeah.
I like Lane, too.
Yeah.
Lane was a good coach.
Yeah, she did a really good job with the kids. She really tried to connect with them.
You remember her last name?
Well, it was Mello.
And she got married.
Yeah.
Did you know Lane Mello?
I did, yeah.
She was a good coach.
She was a very good coach. Yeah, she understood. She, the same way. She was, and it's not to say that all coaches aren't in it for the kids, because I really believe they are. But there are folks that you can tell that there's a little bit extra behind that, and there's various reasons for that. I mean, for me, it's always been the idea that God has not blessed my wife and I with our own children, so my players become my children in a way. I just don't have to take them home and feed them.
Exactly.
Which is sometimes a good thing.
Yeah, it's probably a very good thing, especially when you're doing high school boys.
Yes.
Because I remember having a high school boy in our home, and it was quite the bill.
Oh, yeah.
Now, one question I have, because I don't think we made it clear that you're joining us not from the refereeing standpoint today, but from the coaching perspective. And we want to interview a lot of coaches too. So, How long have you been involved in coaching? You said you got involved when you were 24?
So I was 24.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right about 30 years. It'll be 30 years in December.
You're getting old.
Yes, I'm getting old. But I like to think I'm getting better. I'm learning more.
I was going to say that.
Wisdom.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is.
Wisdom.
The things you know at 53 versus the things you don't know
Yes.
at 24.
Amen.
Well,
Right.
what
Yes.
amazes me is watching coaches and officials too, because I think we all get wiser. And we what we think is so dramatic at such a younger age,
Right.
we grow and we learn, oh, well, he didn't make that call or she didn't make that call because she has something out for my team. As officials, we make the calls that we see.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we make calls that you guys as coaches don't understand.
You're so right, because I think about coaches and I'm thinking, wow, she or he, they were just protecting their team the best they knew how.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, I think we all grow.
And we talked to Casey a couple weeks ago about how intense he used to be and how much he has calmed down. And I see that in other coaches throughout the years. It's like, oh, they've been coaching at this school for so long that their intensity level hasn't necessarily come down. It's just their understanding of officials and the way that we call games has matured. And then also us as officials, I think we also mature to I guess making, I don't know how I want to say it.
Well, I know one way I've matured is I used to think this coach is out to show me up, or this coach is going to try to make me look, or make himself or herself look better than me. And I realized as I got older, that's not always the case. Also, it's not that important. If that's what they want to do, so what? What's the big deal? My job is not to be bigger than them. My job is to do my job while I'm here.
Right, which is to give both teams an equal opportunity to win the game.
Exactly.
I know we were just talking yesterday about connections with coaches, and I think that's something as officials and coaches that we think we're each other's enemies, and we're really not.
Right.
Both of us are there to help kids in our capacity.
Correct.
My
Absolutely.
capacity is not coaching. I used to coach, but I fell in love with officiating. And so from my angle, from my side, now I can help the kids in a different aspect than what you can. I help them understand by following the rules. You help them understand by performance, by sometimes, hey, maybe we can get around this rule, and so there's different objectives. But you and I told Crane this earlier, that I love, just the passion that you have for the kids, because we saw it when you had Sydney. You didn't have to work out with Sydney.
Right. You sure didn't.
But, because you were coaching the boys at that time.
Right.
And you welcomed her into those practices, and she grew so much. And, yeah, you don't know, but, yes, she does really admire you.
Thank you.
So one other question I have. You've been involved since you were 24, about 30 years, and you've coached both boys and girls. So the tough question I have to ask is which one, I think you answered it by your performance. You coach boys more than you do girls, so I think you resonate with the boys more. But which one do you find is more challenging to coach?
I would honestly say I would say the girls, and I would say it because I think boys understand and set their own expectations a little bit higher. And that's not to say that the girls don't, but I think for the girls, they really, a lot of the girls that I've been around don't understand exactly how good they could be.
Oh, yeah.
And how
that's true.
How their ability could really shine. And so bringing that out of them is a little different for, I think, a male coach than it is a female coach.
Right. And on top of all the emotions that girls go through different ages.
Exactly. And I think, and I you don't ever want to say it's drama that they bring or anything like, because
Right.
I've had coach boys and there's just as much drama.
Yep.
There's just as much drama.
Okay.
But it's, and for me, again, the one thing that I've always told my players, and it's whether it's guys or girls, is that I love them and I care about them and I want the best for them. That's interpreted differently from a young lady than
Right.
it is from a young man,
Mhm.
right? And
I'm sure you've gotten objections from some adults telling you that maybe you shouldn't say that.
no, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
Especially
correct.
nowadays.
Yeah, and it's and it's not the idea that that's going to change for me,
Mhm.
because I have heard people say, well, you probably really shouldn't say that.
Right.
It's like, okay,
Especially the girls.
right,
But they
and
need to
it's-
hear that
yeah.
from adults who care.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's what I try. Over the years, that's the one thing I've learned is to explain what I'm, talking about to
Right,
them in
right.
that manner. Like,
Right.
look, it's because I care about you, and I
Right.
want you to perform to the best of what I believe your ability could be,
Mhm.
and even beyond that.
Mhm.
So I would say girls, but there's tough things about coaching all young athletes.
Right.
You're always going to run into different obstacles, and the one thing that I've learned over the years as a coach is that to just be open to what your players are going through, because you really don't know.
Mhm.
A lot of folks do not know or get to see behind the curtain the things that are going on.
Mhm.
And for me, that's why I love being in the school as well. For so many years, I was not at the schools I was coaching at in
Right.
terms of a working position. So I didn't get to be there on a daily basis.
Mhm.
And a lot of these relationships that I feel like could have been better or I could have helped further
Mhm.
didn't really ever get to that point because I just wasn't around enough in a way.
Right. You're just there part-time.
Right.
And so they only saw
Right.
you when you were there as a coach.
Yeah, and now I have students in my office all day. That's
That's because they're trying to get out of class.
Well, there's some of that. There's some of that
So,
too.
what do you do then? Because I thought you did. When I first got involved with you, you were working outside the school. What did you
Mhm.
do then, and how have you transitioned into what now?
So for 27 years, I worked for Wayne TV.
That's what I
and
thought.
directed
Yeah.
the morning news there.
Okay.
And then
27 years.
Yeah, 27 years.
Wow.
Yeah, long time. And I loved it, but God opened another door for me, and now I'm at the school full time. And that's been was a year in June that I'd been there full time.
But at Canterbury?
Yes,
Congratulations. I
Thank
didn't
you.
know that.
thank you. Yeah, so it was a big change.
Yeah.
Last year was what I call a year of upheaval.
Mhm.
For both my wife and I. She left a job of 25 years, and I left a job of 27.
Wow.
And we're
Yeah.
both in new positions.
And your wife now is the head of Prayer Works,
Correct.
which
She
is
is the
in-
administrator for Prayer Works.
which is at the, what's that place called?
the Electric
Le-
Works.
I always
Electric
forget the name
Yeah.
of that place.
Yeah.
Biggest place in town. Now I
Yeah.
always forget the
Mhm.
name of it. So she's been there how long now?
So she started in September.
Okay.
Left a job of 25 years in the orthodontic field.
Wow.
And it's we knew when we sat down and these opportunities were presented to us. The first thing we do is take everything to prayer
Mhm.
and wait to hear his response to that and whether or not it's the right opportunity, and we both felt that this was the right opportunity for us. I know that's where Michelle belongs,
Mhm.
and she's going to do amazing things there, and I hope that I'm going to do amazing things at Canterbury.
Sure you will.
It's odd because Canterbury was new, but it's not new because I'd been there,
Right.
Mhm.
in addition to the television station for 22 years now.
But it's new because now you live in the community.
Right,
Right.
right. And now I'm there all the time. So,
I
So-
remember I had an opportunity. I had an opportunity to teach there for 3 years, and that was a eye-opening experience.
yes.
Looking from the outside of Canterbury in, you think one thing, and then when
Mhm.
you get inside and you actually participate in the everyday operations, you see it completely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would agree. I would agree.
So what has been, as a coach, what has been a career highlight for you?
Oh, geez. It's hard to narrow it down to one thing. I guess if there's one that stands out to me, is when I was coaching AAU for the Gym Rats program.
Okay.
The wonderful world of AAU.
And I had
we have to take a moment on that. You mentioned AAU, he's like, okay, bless us, Lord. As refs, that's a rough.
It is. That's
we'll
a
talk
very
about
that's
that,
a very tough thing.
Please keep going.
That's a very tough thing.
Gotta get me away from that subject for now.
Yeah. We everybody probably has heard the name Austin Hatch. Austin was playing for me at that time. We had he wasn't the only one, obviously. He had a great group of young men that I became very close with. I'm still close with to this day, and most of them I talk with weekly, which only allows me to understand the impact that I've had. If someone takes time out of their busy schedule to just text me, just an old coach, and just to say hi and ask how I'm doing, I mean, that I must have done something right. What it was, I don't know, but I've done something right. But at any rate, we were in Indianapolis for a big tourney, and we had a pretty good team, made it to the finals. We get to the finals, and we're playing a team that no one believes we can beat. And they've got a couple guys who are currently on NBA rosters on that team. And it was an interesting element that they added to the game, because prior, as we were warming up, they took a lap around the court and then ran right up through the middle of our warm up as we were shooting layups in our warm up. Yeah.
Wow.
And see, I want to break in school ball. That's illegal. They cannot do that. AAU brings a whole different gambit to the game, and
absolutely.
As refs, we don't necessarily prefer to work too much at AAU.
I can understand
we'll talk
why.
about that later. Because that kind of stuff, what you just described, that's taunting, and it causes problems in the game. Right. And then we have possible fights going on, and people in the stands, they love that. Oh yeah, let them go. And no,
that's not what we're here for.
That's not supposed to happen in amateur basketball.
Right.
But go ahead. Right. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So they they run up through, and I can see, and I'm kind of looking at like, what are we doing here, and I can see that look on my players' faces as well. And I walked to the middle of the free throw line, and I called them all in, and I just said, don't let it bother you. I said, use it as fuel. Use it as fuel. Rest is history. We walked away with the biggest trophy that day.
Nice.
And beat a team that we never probably should have beaten.
How much you beat them by? I need to know.
16.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they just thought they were going to just come out there and just trounce on you guys.
Yeah.
And by 16.
Yeah. Nice.
A team that tried to intimidate you with an illegal move, you beat them by 16.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
And, it's that's the one that I guess sticks in my mind, just because of that particular
You remember what
thing.
year that was?
Let's see, 2011.
Because I got to keep on pumping that out there for the people that try to intimidate. I'll probably get in trouble with it. I'll probably end up doing some of those players who are probably coaches now. I'll probably end up doing their games in the future. They'll be like, I saw that podcast when you called us out. You shouldn't have done it.
Right. Well, and then we just talked to another official a few days ago who had officiated a tournament down in Indianapolis. And unfortunately, it was not a pleasant ending to that game. She had said, well, actually, from what I was reading online, she didn't actually tell me a whole lot about it, but from what I was reading online, the team was losing by like 30 or 40 points, and it was girls. And they apparently they were threatening the other team.
Oh, wow.
For what, hey, let's meet outside, after the game, we'll meet outside, we're going to kick your, da-da-da. And so all this stuff was going on, and the coach that was winning was like, look, I just want my kids to get out of here safely. I don't understand what's going on. They got parents in the stands saying, you better kick her butt, using explicit, language. And apparently, from there it just escalated, and they actually attacked the officials after the game. And I mean, it's on, it was on Facebook or whatever, and it was just ugly situation. And
unfortunately, that was the young lady that we were reading about was one of the officials we trained.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from our area, and so she's done a lot of stuff down in Indianapolis, but it's just sad to say, what he was talking about earlier. When you talk about AAU now, it's not a pleasant subject. Like most of us that are veteran officials or, haven't been, we've been officiating for, I've been at it 17 years, he's been at it 30. So once we reach a certain level, it's like, I'm not doing that stuff.
It's beneath us. You don't see a lot of higher level officials who do higher level high school or college, or even those that are above. You don't see them doing too many AAU games nowadays, because I it was a time when I couldn't understand that. I'd be like, we love it.
Why we would go out there. We'd be out there for 12, 13 games a day.
But now I see why. They're saying, the game has changed. It's gotten to the point now where you have adults who their values have shifted into negative, and they put emphasis on winning above everything. Like the parents sitting there yelling, you better kick her, this, that, and the other. Well, the other players heard that. So they're trying to use that as intimidation, such as that other team did. So the people go to the nth degree to win anymore. And to me, that's the game is not fun. Yeah, it's just not fun. Even when we do the higher levels, we do semi-pro and minor league. The nth degree, they want to win. It's all about winning. And I'm looking at these people like, do you realize you just laid down your integrity to try to get a W? And then you didn't get it.
Right.
And you still showed your rump, and your integrity is hanging out there in the wind now. And then they come back and do it again. I'm going, I don't think the sport demands all that. I love basketball.
Right.
But it doesn't demand all that.
No. It's, it has changed. And I'm still involved in AAU, but at a different level than what I've been in the past. I'm just assisting now.
We had you last weekend.
Yeah.
You behaved.
And it's
as an assistant coach, you behaved.
I tried.
I think people don't understand assistant coaches, and we know as officials, an assistant coach's job is to assist the head coach. That's it. They're not supposed
coaching the kids.
Right. They're not supposed to interact with officials. And we had a game out there last weekend, and the assistant coach came up to us during halftime. He said, and he'd been bantering during the first half. And I said, no, we don't interact with the assistants. He goes, what does that mean? I just ran away from him. He comes up at halftime. Hey, can I ask you guys a question? No. But I just want to ask a question. No. I just need to ask. No. Are you serious? Go away. You're not the head coach. Go over there, and if you don't, he's going to get penalized. And he finally walked away, and I'm thinking, when did people not understand that an assistant coach is just that, an assistant to the head coach? Because a lot of those
coaches that are coaching AAU are just AAU coaches. They are not high school coaches. They don't understand the rules.
Now, we told the head coach that. We said, we told the head coach, we're playing on the high school rules.
Right, but they don't understand what that means, because they are just a parent of a kid, and they are just out there to coach their kid because they want their kid to have other opportunities.
And do you remember what he said when we told him that? We said...
That was you and Sydney, I think.
Okay.
So.
And Sydney and we were talking to the assistant coach. He said, no, we only talk to head coaches. We're playing on the high school rules. And he says, what is this? And I heard the head coach turn around. We know we're playing on the high school rules. And I looked at him. Well, obviously you don't, because your assistant is not supposed to be over here.
Right.
We could have penalized him. Yeah. So you're right.
And then if you do penalize him by penalizing the head coach, then the head coach has what we call the seatbelt rule.
Yes, the coach.
And they don't know what that is.
They don't know.
Why does he get to stand then? Because he didn't get a technical. Because he's not under the seatbelt rule. Well, can my assistant stand? No, he's the reason you got the technical in the first place. So no.
And I think that is an incredible point for you guys, because I think as a coach, I think that's one of the biggest things, is that even my peers as coaches, sometimes younger coaches especially, don't truthfully understand the rules, don't understand the rule book.
Right.
And obviously in the AAU world, you're going to see that a lot more because you don't have and I don't want to say they're not qualified coaches, but I guess that's
they're not qualified coaches.
They're not qualified coaches, right?
Most of them
and
are not.
It's hard because having a love for the game and wanting to be around it and motivate kids is one thing, but truly teaching and understanding and helping them navigate and understand the rules as well, I think is a huge part of our coaching.
And you can only do that if you know the rules and understand the rules.
Right.
And I think a lot of AAU coaches, people that are in that position, they're not interested in the rules. They're not interested in this conversation.
Well, they think they know the rules based on playing.
Right.
Well, not only
Or
playing,
watching.
but watching.
Right.
And
that's
they
exactly
think
it.
they think watching the NBA qualifies them
Right.
to be a coach for a kid. Well, the NBA rules and our high school rules
Two
are
different worlds.
two different worlds. And then on top of it, if you throw in, we have the NFHS, which governs the IHSAA, which governs all the other
Associations around the country.
throughout the states. So if you go to the Indiana, if you go to Illinois, some of their things might be tweaked a little bit versus what we do here in Indiana. So then if you have us on a court here, and then you have Michigan officials in, and then you have Ohio officials in, well, we all might have a little tweak in what the rules are. And so when we say, hey, we're going by IHSAA rules, but you've got officials that are coming in and they don't know the IHSAA rules,
Correct.
then that throws everybody into a frenzy because they're like, well, we didn't do that over there. They gave us 6 fouls on that court.
Right.
I'm like, well, we're playing Indiana high school rules, and you get 5 fouls.
Yeah,
So-
and it becomes a mess. But AAU has grown to be such a big monster that you really can't stop it now. I mean, we do volleyball as well, and we see club volleyball, in my opinion, has gotten bigger than high school volleyball. And I think AAU is moving that way to get bigger than high school basketball.
Yeah.
And so when you go to AAU in basketball or you go to club in volleyball, their rules are completely different because they're trying to develop these kids for the upper level. And high school isn't doing that. High school is an intercollegiate activity, and it's meant to, I think they always emphasize, these are student athletes, not athletic students. Whereas if you go to AAU, it is
All about
It's
athletics.
all
Student
about
athletes,
athletics.
yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
or athletic students. So I think the parameters or the details around that gets kind of muddy. And I don't like to put down AAU because it's not AAU. That's not the problem. What the problem is the people who come in as fans and coaches, and they participate in those tournaments, and they come in ignorant of the rules, number one, and then they bring in all their attitudes and stuff they have on their shoulders, and some are trying to live through their kids, and I didn't make it, but mine's going to make it.
I love the ones that come in and tell us that, oh, because we're from Michigan. Oh, well, we're from Michigan, so that, automatically. And I'm thinking, I didn't know you were from Michigan until now.
Till you
So
said it. So, no,
You
we're
know.
not. I mean, I've never seen you guys. It's all over our shirts. I didn't even bother to look at your shirt. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But, it's a challenge. But let's move on a little bit, because I told you when you got in AAU, you're going to get us going.
yeah, let's get off that subject.
So I guess my next question to you is then, you have been involved over 30 or near 30 years as a coach, and you've told us what one of your highlights was. That's a pretty good highlight. I'll remember that.
Yeah.
So what would you say is a pet peeve of yours that you have about officiating in general, or rules, or anything like that?
I guess for me, if I termed it as a pet peeve, it would be inconsistencies, and I try and talk to my players about that. Is that the one thing we know is that officials are human. They're just like us. I'm going to make mistakes as a coach. They're going to make mistakes as officials. You are certainly going to make mistakes as a player. But I guess I've had a few over the years where there's that inconsistency has been, in either contact allowed or what I perceive as inconsistent, contact allowed or something along those lines. I generally, and I think, Crane, you alluded to it earlier, my biggest thing when I get a little bit intense and I get a little bit after officials is less to do with the officials and more to do with letting my players know that I'm kind of standing up for them or fighting for them. And that way they keep themselves in their place. You know, hey, coach has got us. He's fighting for us. We don't have to say anything to officials. That keeps them out of your ear, chirping at you guys.
And that's a good thing.
And starting issue, you know, for them.
Because we're old school officials, and when it comes to
we
seriously.
are, but not everybody is.
Right.
So.
And, but that's a good point, because different officials. I mean, officials are different. Like you said, we're human, so we all have our differences. Just like coaches have their glitches and their pet peeves. We have pet peeves about certain coaches, and they're different. And players are, and we always tell players, you know, they come at me with the consistency thing, and I'm going, didn't you adjust your game last night when you played such and such a team? Well, yeah. Well, what makes you think you'd have to adjust your game with officials? Because officials are this way or that way, just like teams are this way or that way. And I think I hear that from a lot of coaches about consistency. I like when they break it down like you did, because I found this too, Deric. Consistency with a lot of coaches, that definition is different with different coaches.
It very much is. Very much is.
We've got to figure out what you guys mean. Okay, when I go into this school, what is his definition of consistency?
His definition of consistency is give me all my calls.
I, you know, and if I had to, like, you know, I think of one game in particular last year that we had an older, well-established official, someone who I respect very much, and I'm able to talk with him, you know, and just, hey, would you explain this call? This is what I saw. What did you see? We had a much younger official who I would say was green if he was any color, and and I know I don't have the same relationship with him.
Right.
But I'm approaching you in a calm manner, just asking about, you know, your calls, why, you know, somebody's getting a little bit more, you know, contact down here, and there's a call, and now, you know, are you seeing the same contact? Because it looked the same to me, those types of things. And that's exactly what it was. It was he was very standoffish and very, and, you know, that's hard. It's because you're going to have those relationships, you know, much the same as I could talk to the both of you on the court, and there's others that are going to take it as I'm jumping down somebody's neck, you know. And
well, I don't know about you, but I can relate to that, because when I was a younger official, you really couldn't talk to me very much. And I remember back when.
Well, I think it's a fear. You know, number one, it's a fear because what if I say the wrong thing?
Right.
Or what if, you know, maybe I did miss the call. You know, how do I own up to that? Because a lot of officials, especially newer officials, they don't want to say, yeah, you were right, I was wrong.
They don't want to admit that.
Because it's an intimidating thing, because, you know, we tell officials, new officials, you get to tell a coach you're wrong maybe once maybe twice a game, maybe twice.
Twice is really pushing.
That's really pushing it. And so it's, you know, it's that intimidation factor, you know, about making sure that we're getting all the calls right, or that we're, you know, doing the best that we can, especially being new. And I know that is a fear factor.
Yeah, I remember when I was young, and when we had Jake Linder on. Jake is our chairperson of Basketball Association here, and he said to him, I always remember, he says, yeah, a lot of coaches, they expect us to be 100% and get better from there each night.
From the moment we walk in the door, we're going to 100%
and get better.
Right.
And I'm going, that is kind of the way it feels a lot of times we walk into, and depending on the school and the coach. And a lot of coaches are going to put a lot of pressure, and they expect officials to be really, really good and on top of everything. And we're kind of looking at them like, well, now, you said at the beginning of the game, we're human. You've made about 3 bad calls and pulled kids you shouldn't have and put them in at the wrong time. And your players are missing free throws and everything else. But you want us to be perfect. And I get that. And I've learned over the years that in just about any sport, a lot of coaches, like I said earlier, they're just taking their frustration out on us. And we just have to have broad shoulders. And a lot of refs, I know when I was younger, I was like, no, I don't have to have broad shoulders. You just need to get your butt back over there and leave me alone.
Right.
And when you're young, you're fiery. That's why I say I've really matured. And I realized, let's give the guy some grace. He's fussing, he's yelling over there, but it's not personal after the game. Hey, Deric, good game, you know. We get it, but when we're younger, you know, you don't always catch on to that.
The one thing I always like to tell coaches about consistency too is, you know, I always think about, you know, the first half of the game and how, you know, how aggressive you might be in the first half, where you're playing, you're pressing and you're playing up, and and you're getting all these steals and you're making easy layups. And then in the second half, after you've had this 10-minute halftime, the kids come back out, and it's not the same kids that were playing in that first half. Now they are getting handsy, now they are maybe not playing as much pressure defense, and so now all of a sudden the game starts to flip-flop, and the team that you were kind of handling is all of a sudden making a comeback. And so I always think about, consistency in that, and how people want to say, well, you started changing your calls. No, you're playing differently than how you played in the first half.
Right.
Yeah, it's a different game.
So as far as consistency is concerned, we can only be as consistent as the game is, I think. And that's kind of how I look at it. And I get what coaches say about us being consistent. If we have a charge call at one end and it looks very similar at the other end, we should probably have the same call. And we talk about that as officials in our pregame. We talk about, hey, if we have similar calls, let's be consistent on that. And sometimes it's hard, because where you think, well, that's the same play down there. Well, no, it was totally different, because this player did not even establish legal guarding position, and so now we have that as a factor. But as far as consistency, I think.
And, I didn't figure that out. Like she was talking about how if you have a play down here and you have a similar one down here, try to have the same call. I really didn't figure that out until I started doing college ball. Until I started reffing college basketball. And we do women's college. I really didn't get that, but when I got to college level, I realized how important that was, because it's a much faster game.
Oh, absolutely.
It's even much faster than boys high school. People think boys high school is fast. No, you go watch a women's college game, and they don't want us calling very much.
And you run up and down a college court.
A college court,
a little bit different.
Longer, wider, and they don't want us blowing our whistle. They want us to let them have a lot more contact. So you do high school ball, high school boys varsity, then you go do a women's college, and people think, oh, you're just doing that sissy women's. I'm like, okay, you come out there and try to run 20 minutes in one half, almost nonstop. And people ask me, how do you stay thin at your age? Chasing these women up and down the court.
I understand that. That's one of the things that I think has that, and I've said this to officials before, and I think the game as a whole has gotten faster and faster at every level, right?
I agree.
And so, I think when and this was years back, obviously, when we went to the third official at the high school level, I thought that was one of the best decisions they made, because you can't expect two individuals to cover that much ground and to see everything that's going on, so the speed, the contact has gotten more, and it's hard, because again, I go back to my players, and and you talked about the influence of the NBA on coaches, and people thinking, okay, I watched an NBA game, I can certainly coach at that level,
right?
But I talk to the players like, look, understand that you're not going to get every call. It's going to be more physical. We can either let you play, we can have them let you play, and you determine the outcome, or we can call everything, and then it's it becomes a different pace to the game. It becomes a different all around atmosphere to everything that's going on.
Yep.
And I think players see that stuff that's going on. It's hard for me even to watch an NBA game, and I love basketball at its purest.
Yep.
But it's hard for me to watch an NBA game, because every call is being disputed at that level.
Right.
Yep.
And it's like, you have the most athletic people in the world on those courts.
Yes.
They're capable of making some of those plays.
Yep.
And if the officials called everything, again, they'd be in the arena for 4.5 hours every night.
Yep.
And shoot 100 free throws. And I think that's a direct relation to the players seeing that, and now I see that with the players, and that's one of the things that we have talk about in our very first meetings of the year is stop worrying about the officiating. Just, you've got enough on your plate to play the game and to do the things, or attempt to do the things that I'm asking you to do, again, on a consistent basis. And that's one of the things I tell my high school guys, like, look, the one thing I know you're going to be consistent in is being inconsistent.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
So just try your hardest to do the things we're asking you to do. And now if you've got to put that on your plate to worry about calls that are or aren't being made, now it's taking you completely out of what you're asked to do.
And, I'll joke with players. I go up to the free throw line, they're at the line, and maybe he's been crying for this call or that call, and he got 2 shots, clank.
Mm-hmm.
All right, subs, and I'm walking up in the middle, and I'll walk right up to his face and say, you do realize these are called free throws, right? They're free. And they'll look at me and kind of giggle like that.
Some of them.
Some of
them get an
give me
attitude.
that attitude and that face like, one of me said, he says, the ref is talking trash? I said, you were. What do you mean? You've been asking for fouls the whole first half. Now you're at the free throw line. You made 1 out of 7. So yeah, I'm talking trash to you. And they, oh, okay, I got you, ref. I got you. Yeah, and then they go up there and he'll make one. He'll look at me and smile. It's about dang on time.
Yeah, it takes us pointing it out to you that you're missing free throws.
Right. Yeah, everybody's crying, man, give them the foul. And then you give them the foul. They go to the free throw line and miss. And coaches too, fans, they miss the free throws. That drives me crazy. I'm like, okay, you wanted the foul, you got it. Now you're missing the free throw, and nobody's contending your shot. I mean, shut up. I mean, I'm not supposed to think like that, am I? No, I'm supposed to think like that. I'm not supposed to say it.
Right.
It's okay for you to think like that. Yeah.
Scratch that statement. So, just a few minutes left. So what would you say is a missing link in officiating today? What would you, in terms of getting more people on the court, why do you think that we're having such a lack of young officials coming out?
I think it's exactly what you alluded to earlier. I think it's dealing with the outside noise, the crowds. It's dealing with the inexperienced coaches. It's dealing with those types of atmospheres. I couldn't do what you guys do.
Don't worry, I couldn't do what you do.
I got big ears, and I hear an awful lot. And
we hear a lot, we just ignore it.
Yeah, and see, and I'm not made that way.
So every game you'd be like, "What'd you say?"
Yeah, because I'm sure I'm hearing things from parents too about my job, but
right.
But it's I think that's what it is, and I wouldn't want to go to a job every day where somebody is screaming and yelling at me and questioning the job that I'm doing.
What you always say?
I would love to go to these people's jobs and yell at them the entire time they're working.
Yeah.
Well, what did you put that over there for? Well, no, you need to move it over here. Well, what are you doing this for? And I mean, just
why are you wasting time on your phone? You need to be on your computer doing your work.
You suck. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's not paperclip storage. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I think about that. I'm like, how would you like it if someone came to your job and handled you that way?
We're supposed to love people.
I do love people. I just love them to be quiet and cheer for their kids. That's their whole role. And I think parents have forgotten what their role is. Their role is to be there to support their kid, to cheer for their team, not to cheer against the other team, not to belittle anyone else, not to come and tell me that I suck and that I don't know what I'm doing when I've been doing this for 17 years. I do small college. I'm sorry, I might know a little bit about what I'm doing. I think I can handle a 3rd grade game.
And what I want to say sometimes these parents is get your fat butt up out here in the court and run them down this court and make perfect calls. But I can't say that.
Yes.
I can't say
that.
But
you just did.
I think the crazy thing is, you go to a lot of these games and I've literally heard folks say this. I paid my money.
Yes.
I can say whatever I want to say. And I'm like, no,
that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's not how it works. And that's where I feel for you all, is because I just think that's a direct relation to why there are more individuals not going into something like that.
Yeah, that's a reasonable conclusion. So we only got about a couple minutes left. What would you say is some last comments that you would want to leave with our viewers and our listeners?
I would just speak to the listeners about exactly what you both said, and that's being in it for the kids and being in it for, looking at the larger picture. I distinctly remember a couple years back, again, an AAU group, I was working with a 4th grade group, and parents screaming and yelling at the kids, and I'm thinking 4th graders, I'm hoping they all don't just start crying and walk off the floor, right? And after the game, I pulled the parent group in and I said, I want you to look around the gym and tell me what you don't see. And they looked around and looked back at me like, what am I supposed to say? And I said, there's not one college coach in here recruiting your fourth grader. I
Reality.
said, let them make mistakes. Let them be kids. Let them enjoy it.
Let them have fun.
I mean, to me, that's why I've stuck with basketball, because I fell in love with it when I was a little kid.
Yep.
Because my father allowed me to just step back, make mistakes, play through it.
He doesn't let us make mistakes.
And cheered me.
Well, and
in fact, every time I see him at the Y, he's always looking at me like.
Well, on that note, we're going to sign off here, but I wanted to, I'm glad you said all that, because that takes us into, when you talk about having fun, the newest addition to our ecosystem is we're doing Hoosier 3-on-3 basketball leagues. We did a tournament at Turnstone for Three Rivers Festival kickoff day, and we're catapulting into leagues now. So our first league is going to be at Christian Community Center of Harlan, and we are going to be co-sponsoring with Harlan
Christian School.
Harlan Christian High School. School, I guess, is different. So, and then there's the 3-on-3 is allowing kids to just play. No coaching.
No coaching.
And they get to just play and have fun and do their own thing.
Set their own plays and sub in whenever they want, all that stuff.
That's
and it'll be about three, anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7, even 7 players per team, because each week, well, even 7, they can be in 7. As listen to our training today, so they can have as many players as they want on a team, because it's a league, so it lasts a month, and each week is going to be on Fridays of September. Each week there might be 1 or 2 families who can't make it, so it'll give kids just a chance to come out and have fun and just play and enjoy themselves. So we're doing that. Of course, we're doing referee training school, and we have a class coming up for that. So you can go to our online representation, which is reftrainingschool.com, if you want to get into officiating. Also, you can go to Hoosier3on3.com, and that's Hoosier and then the number 3on3.com. So want to encourage everybody to get involved with some aspect of the sport from officiating or coaching standpoint. We appreciate you coming on today, my man.
Thank you very much.
Sir.
I appreciate you having me.
And we will see you next time for Ref Time. So with that, we sign off. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to Ref Time, powered by reftrainingschool.com and Hoosier3on3.com. Produced by Coraggio Media. Ref Time is recorded in WELT Studios in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana.
To join RTS, visit reftrainingschool.com. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time.